All right, soulmates, it is time to experience more of the incomparable voice of Whitney Houston like never before. Today we are joined by Pat and Gary Houston, who are here to talk about the upcoming release of He Can Use Me. It's the stunning new single from Whitney's long-awaited gospel album, I Go to the Rock, the gospel music of Whitney Houston. Now, this album features 6 never-before-released tracks and a documentary TV special that follows Whitney's gospel journey from her early performances to recording the best-selling gospel album of all time. Thank you both so much for taking some time out to join us, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Indeed, absolutely. So let's start by discussing the release and the purpose of I Go to the Rock, the gospel music of Whitney Houston. Why now? I'm assuming her lifelong fans have been wanting this for a while now.
Well, you know, it's a special time. This year, Whitney would be turning 60 years old in August, on August 9th. And Whitney loved birthday celebrations. She loved Easter. And I just felt this is a project that Whitney herself produced. That's what I always tell everyone. Everything is about timing, and she's always wanted to do a gospel project ever since she did a visitation in the Holy Land. She wanted to produce something called Gospel in the Holy Land, but of course that never happened, and that's why we're at this place right now.
Yeah, and to extend that thought, why do you think that gospel release never happened? Do you think it was a time when maybe the label people felt it wasn't appropriate, or there wasn't a market for it? Why do you think that gospel album never happened while she was here with us in the physical?
Well, she never stopped singing gospel music, you know, although nothing was ever released. Every tour that she's ever done, she's always performed a gospel song. One of those songs was always I Go to the Rock or I Love the Lord. So Whitney has never stopped. It was her beginning, and she never stopped. You know, I always tell folk that gospel was the center of her gravity, and she never let go. Even if no one else wanted her to do it, she always did.
Sure.
It's always gospel for her.
Sure. And speaking of the beginning, we remember Whitney being like 17 when she recorded He Can Use Me, which never, commercially was released. Talk about that time in her young life before her first professional recording with Arista Records, when she was recording some of her gospel favorites.
Well, I Go to the Rock is a great title for Whitney in terms of how it all started. Going back in time as a teenager, growing up in the Houston home, drinking singers. My mother was a very well-known gospel singer. She had brothers and sisters who played instruments, who sang, and they really sang from morning, noon, and night. And so we woke up to that. So I Go to the Rock is just going back to her source, going back to her origin, going back to her center. So, I mean, when you think about the industry, there's always it's a money-making business, and and she sang secular music, but she always sang a gospel song in every one of her shows around the world. Ever since I've been singing with her for 30 years, and background doing duets in studio, and always inserted a gospel song that was very much prevalent, very, very meaningful to the show. So it's just a segue into just letting people know that this is what Whitney stood for. This is where she came from. This was her background, and so she got a lot of. She learned from the best.
Yeah, indeed. And Gary, we always see the videos of you and Whitney. She's performing. You're right there, got her back, as Big Bro, and musically speaking, as one of her background singers. What was like, growing up with Whitney and sharing those times with her, the young Whitney, and then as she became the Whitney that we know, talk a little bit about that life, if you will.
It was so much fun growing up with Whitney because, like I said, I learned from the best. My mother taught me a lot. I was playing ball a lot, but I was always around the music. side of it when they rehearsed and mimicking my mother. I sang more of female artist songs than I did male artist songs. So, and Whitney would always, just always cling to me. I'm 6 years older than she is, and so there are things that I taught her. My mother taught me, and I taught Whitney. And then we taught one another. She learned faster because she spent more time singing in studios with my mother and in church and doing nightclubs and things like that. I started doing that when I finished basketball a lot more than I did at that time. But it was just so special being able to experience singing with my mother and singing with Whitney. Never knew Nippy was going to turn into a Whitney Houston. I knew that she had the potential, the ability, the gifts, but man, she just wanted to sing. Yeah. She never knew that. She never knew that was going to turn it. Wow, this is all happening to me. She just wanted to sing, and she got so much gratification and appreciation out of just singing from her heart and from her mind and from her soul, which my mother always told us that's what we should do. We don't have to compare ourselves with anybody or try to compete with anybody. Just sing from your heart.
Yeah, well, you kind of on the tall side, Mr. Gary, so we knew if you wasn't running up and down the court that you also had a voice to contribute to this musical family. So talk about that. When did, Whitney maybe decide that she wanted to go professional? We know we had the example of your mom and other family members like Miss Warwick. Talk about, that decision to go professional, and if there was a struggle with how that was going to affect her faith, maybe or maybe not.
But she had a lot to compare with. I mean, she had a lot to compete with when it comes to my mother and Dion and Aretha. It was always around Gladys and my mother. The artist that fell into her path at growing up. And I was always a singer. I was still playing ball, but I was always musically inclined. So we had a lot of fun growing up, singing outside in the backyard, in the car. I took her to school every day, and she always sang. I mean, just songs. We listened to all kinds of music, but most importantly, the gospel effect and the experience of growing up in the church and knowing how what God meant to my mother and her family and the relationships that it established when we established those relationships with other people. Whitney was a loner, and she always pretty much isolated, and she took time to really, work on her craft. My mother taught her very well, and she learned, very well and very quickly. And it was, you got the ins and outs and pros and cons of this business. Just either you really want to achieve something, or you. And to believe that you can, you receive the things that come with the nature of this business. But my mother gave her so much knowledge and information on what to expect. And she, you have to experience it yourself to understand how important it is. You have to go through the bumps and bruises, and you have to really understand for yourself and learn from your experiences what it really entails and what it's going to take for you to maintain and sustain, this kind of the ability to want to be an artist and want to be as big as a star and the voice that she had and the effect and the impact that she had on the world.
Sure. As you were talking, we were showing some home family videos of the rich, history and legacy of your family. Thanks so much for sharing those memories. Miss Pat, we got maybe about a minute or so left. Let's talk real quick about the project. The album features 14 songs, 6 songs that have never before been released. Talk about some of that unreleased music and what we can look forward to as far as putting our ears to it.
Well, something, she recorded, a couple of those songs when she was 17 years old. A lot of the fans, they always want music, new music, old music, it doesn't matter. But we knew that bringing this project to fruition, that we had to bring something special. And He Can Use Me is such a special, special song. I don't know if you've heard it or not, but it's such a testament to her life. And she allowed God to use her because she connected people from all over the world, different cultures. She could do that. You hear many stories about folk talking about what Whitney Houston's music did for their life, which is very, very special. So we wanted to bring something special from the heart. And Whitney, like I said, gospel was her refuge. And for a lot of us that grew up in the church, gospel was like the incubator for our life. And she just never let go. And we wanted to bring closure, to fans, to just let them know she's good.
Yeah.
She's at peace. And this is a project. And if you watch the documentary, she speaks a lot herself about what gospel music meant to her and what God meant to her. And we just wanted to bring that to the forefront for fans to see. Yeah,
I also wanted to mention the documentary and the TV special, the other components with this release. What perspective is that from? I mean, since her physical passing, we've seen so many, documentaries, some movies. What's going to set these two projects aside from some of the other Whitney documentaries and movies that we've seen?
Because this one is very, very special because this is something Whitney wanted to do, although she did want to do a documentary. But, with the name as big as Whitney Houston, everybody wants a slice and a piece of that.
Sure.
Everybody does not have a slice or piece of this. This is directly from the family, from the heart. So it's extremely authentic, and the purpose is what it is, to draw you closer. She's still connecting, and God is still using her, So, this is it. This is the project, where it all started, and the reasons why we fell in love with Whitney Houston is right here.
Yeah, from a personal standpoint, what do you each of you miss the most about Whitney? And we talking about Whitney, the sister-in-law, the family member. What do you miss most about Whitney?
Oh my God, she was like, what, I kind of had to balance things, being a manager and being her sister-in-law, but also being a confidant. I just had to balance it all. And I was just telling a friend the other day, I said, it's been 11 years and this is the very first time that I'm now beginning to really miss her, because we're still in Georgia and she's the reason why we moved here in the first place. And, just missing the laughter. She was very, we worked on a lot of community projects together, that I put up on pause, because of her passing. And sometimes it can be very hard, not having her around, because we were such confidants. And I just miss that laughter, and miss her motivating me and inspiring me, I miss that a lot.
And adding to that, I miss her. Like she said, the laughter. Whitney was so funny. Love that she exemplified, exuded, and just gave to me and my family. So she always, like I said, she kept us centered, always thinking straight about the right things and the family ties. And she just loved being over here. I told you, she's all over this house. She was here like it was her second. She wanted to move here and live in. I said, you got this big house over there, man. You want to stay over here. But no. It's not like being over here. And we had to decide whether I was going to let her stay. And I finally said, no, it's not going to work. Two families can't live in the same home. All right. So, but yet, now that she's gone, I wish I had made a little wiser decision, because her spirit is all around this home. It really is. And she shows up in the rain. She shows up with a little red bird, and she shows up in all kinds of ways. When the doorbell rings, it's been so long. It's been 11 years now. I still think it's her, at the front door. So she's always just in the spirit of things, and it may not be physically, but in the spirit. It's never going to fade away. Absolutely.
Amen to that. And let me tell you, the legacy is so rich and the mantle is heavy. And so we just appreciate you doing what you've been doing for the past 11 years to make sure that legacy is done properly and effectively and authentically. Pat and Gary Houston, thank you so much for your time today. Our love to the remainder of the family. And now you're officially soulmates. So anytime the Whitney and you guys have something going on from that camp, please give us a call and we'll talk about it for sure. God bless and happy Easter. And thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.